this morning. We're in the studio. We have been joined by Retail Lieutenant Lawrence Leema, who is the National Publicity Secretary for the ruling Sierra Leone People's Party. And he's here to talk about the just concluded women's leader election and build up to other elections within the SLPP. Good morning and welcome to the program, Leema.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's talk about the just concluded elections. Thankfully, the second part of it was very peaceful and came up with a winner. But how did everything go? How was it within the party? Because there are rumors around that, oh, after this election, the party has split into, and well, you already know, and also after what's happened in Kailahun and this election. So what's really happening within the party right now?
Well, that has always been the perception that each time people go into elections, once you have one set of party winning, the other party become discontent, and there will be no need for them to work together. So perhaps that was the spirit after the outcome in what happened in Kailahun. And so the leadership viewed that, and that is why they took steps to cancel the process and bring them back to the drawing board to understand the nature of elections they were engaged in. And I think that understanding was striking, and they all got that. And over and above all, creating also the level playing field and providing a fair process that everybody feels satisfied with the process, and the outcome was acceptable by even those who lost the elections. And that was why you even saw Fatima Bio walking to Hawafuri to congratulate Hawafuri. And so it is now the expectation that Hawa equally should be able to also extend the olive branch to Fatima Bio and see how best they can work in unison, because the bigger picture is how much they are able to use their own wing to see the SLPP in power again in the next elections. And in all of these, the First Lady also has a very key role to play, because she is the mother by virtue of her status as the First Lady. Yeah. And over and above all, well, what people perhaps outside the party think is what is happening within the party is really not the case. At this stage, it is quite clear that the First Lady also is working behind the scenes to see how best we can have a formidable force to get the SLPP continue in the reign in power. So at this stage, Hawa is new in the national leadership cadre. This is not to say also she has not been playing her own part in the party. She is as old in the party as Fatima Bio. She has her own experience, save for the fact that Fatima may have her own exposure over Hawa. But in terms of their commitment and loyalty and determination for the success of the party, I would personally rate it, say the same. Given the fact that the process was transparent and free, fair, Hawa emerged the winner. Fatima felt satisfied with the process and congratulated her. So at this stage, like the president said at State House, that they should be forming councils around the leadership. It is my expectation that perhaps they form an advisory council, which will also help Hawa in administering the women's wing to a successful process or a successful administration that will help the party itself achieve its bigger goal. So in all of these, I would say the First Lady has a key role to play, and she has been very instrumental in actually keeping our women actually doing what is also good for the party.
Yes,
so we would expect that she played that leadership role to get the women on board by making sure that Famata is on board, for all of us to put hands on deck to see how best we
Yeah, indeed, she has been very instrumental, especially during the last election, the one at Kailahun, wherein there's this video going around wherein she said that the security forces do not really, they were not really there for them. How does this happen? How did you let that happen? Because the First Lady said she had to let her own security personnel go back for the women in Kailahun. With all this happening, and now you're thinking about bigger elections coming up, what's happening within the party? Is it really true that there's bad blood now within the party?
Oh, well, I will tell you there is no bad blood within the party. It's quite unfortunate. First of all, I considered my role as a national, as a national officer of the party. I'm equally playing my own leadership role. And for us at the leadership cadre is to see how best we play a role that unifies the party other than keeping the party in cracks. So for me, it was a personal decision that I advised myself not to go to Kailahun because whatever happened as individuals, we all have our own biases and sentiments around competition. And so to prevent myself from really taking sides into whatever that was happening, because one way or the other you may see, perhaps I may come closer to one party and the other party will view it differently, and to avoid all of those, I decided not to go to Kailahun. And because I did not go to Kailahun, what happened actually where the First Lady said the light was turned off and the LUC was taken outside, that is quite unfortunate. Perhaps this is more the reason why the leadership of the security forces themselves should be able to be on top of their job. Because at all time, if you are providing a state security for the citizenry of this country, you should be able to know at what point in time where, if even somebody tells you this is a party matter or this is an internal conflict, you should be able to know where that stops and where your state responsibility comes in. For whatever it is, the First Lady is part of the presidency. She's part of the presidency. At no point in time that a light should be turned off and you, the LUC, who is in charge of the internal or local security at that level, should allow yourself to be misled to go out and leave or left people in danger. No, that one was unacceptable, and it is perhaps the level of understanding of his job, because he should have been able to know that no, whatever it is, anything goes wrong here, I will be held responsible as the LUC.
So is it safe to say that the women did not get the support that they needed from the men and also from the security personnel?
Well, that is not the case. Perhaps it's the misunderstanding or the kind of conflicting message that was put out to the security personnel themselves, that this is an internal party matter, you should be very careful how you get yourself involved. So not having a thorough understanding of what you were doing, maybe because it's a ruling party matter as well.
Sorry, there was this kind of panic and all. This is the Sierra Leone People's Party. The women are part of the Sierra Leone People's Party. And if they're having an election, no matter whatever is happening, it's for the People's Party, it's for the SLPP, no? So they should be there to protect the women, same way as they will be there to protect the men.
That was exactly the case, but like you heard, because I was...
But the First Lady was complaining that the security personnel were not there for them.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Because the security personnel, from whatever quarters, perhaps they might have gotten the information that this is an internal party matter, you should not be too involved.
When you say internal party matter, what do you mean?
That was what I heard from her. That was what the LUC was told, that they have to be very careful.
When you say an internal party matter, what does that mean?
Well, that's the information that was given to them. But as for me, somebody who was trained and commissioned.
They were on elections.
That's what I'm telling you now.
That is a general SLPP matter. So what is the internal party matter?
That's what I'm telling you. It is internal because it is SLPP affairs.
Okay.
Yeah? Which perhaps one would think that this is outside the general outlook of national elections. And so because it's an internal thing, perhaps somebody
the police should not be involved.
That is, perhaps some other people who might have taken sides, that could have been the kind of directives they must have given to the police. But the police should be able to be on top of their game as professionals, to be able to know that whatever it is as professional, you should stand out, even if you have been given directives. That is why discretion is key. And when you have a general understanding of your job, you should be able to know at what point in time that you should see things beyond internal. You should see things from an angle where you know you should intervene. First of all, you are a public official. Being a public official, you should know exactly where. Say again?
And they are there to keep the peace.
Certainly. So if, let's say, for instance, the light has been turned off, you know, the people who are in there are prone to danger. And more so, they are women. You should also be able to understand the sensational issues around women. And when occurrences of that nature occur, where people have to turn off the lights, talk less of even the situation where you have the First Lady in present and the light was turned off and you are the LUC and you even allow yourself to be carried away to actually go out of the hall. So it was really, well, either the police was perhaps they allowed themselves to be cowed, to not perform their job, or either they did not actually have the general understanding of their job itself. But this is more the reason why I would say for every operational engagement that you have to really put the police into, you have to have an operational orders. So by giving them operational orders, you give them a clear picture of what the situation is and at what point in time they should really intervene. That's why, because giving an operational order, you anticipate the situation and looking at it from various angles, and whatever happens, they should be able to know how to respond to that.
Not to put you in a tight spot, but you're also you're also inside the Internal Affairs Ministry. You're the Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs. So, you know, when you talk about the security forces and the briefing they get when it comes to elections, whether be it general elections or be it party elections, executive elections within a political party, what sort of briefing do they get? Are they there to, you know, being that this is the SLPP and we're taking this as an example, are they there to protect the First Lady, or are they there to man the elections?
Generally, they have a general duty to provide a very peaceful environment and also ensure law and order prevail in the generality. But as state security personnel, and the First Lady is part of the state, by extension of her being the First Lady. She is part of the state because she is part of the presidency. And being a state security personnel, leadership at all point in time when a leadership is in danger, they must have to be protected. All
right. You know, you talk about the First Lady and her role within the Sierra Leone People's Party, within the SLPP, and her relationship with the women's wing. Wherein you're saying, you know, it is maybe people outside the SLPP who have a negative perspective. There are videos to show that even people within the SLPP think the First Lady took sides when it came to the elections and might have instigated others to basically ruin the elections there in Kailahun, wherein we saw videos of people, you know, taking the ballots, and I'm sure you've seen those videos where someone was claiming that the First Lady has given them money to do ballot stuffing. So, whereas you have stated that, okay, you recused yourself from the situation, others might say the First Lady had a hand in the turnout of the Kailahun elections.
All right, these are speculations, or even though there's a video to the effect, but I would say this in all honesty, that whether the First Lady was involved directly or indirectly, I did not see her directly, even though I saw party members. But the fact that she occupies the status of being a First Lady and being there, everyone will see us as the most influential person there. So one would be tempted to ascribe what was happening to her. And so, yeah, but I did not see from the video I saw, I did not see her directly involved in that kind of voter malpractices, or say I saw, say for the fact that perhaps people might have seen ladies who perhaps are within the camp that the First Lady actually supports, and because of that they want to like connect the dots by bringing her into the picture. But what happens? The leadership actually took steps to be able to correct that anomalies and create a level playing field for everybody to go through a transparent process. And I think that left every contestant satisfied with the outcome of the process. And this is where I would say, perhaps because of what had happened in Kailahun, and one would be tempted to say maybe it's the product of what happened in Katko. Well, this is where also the First Lady again has to show leadership again to ensure that because of the position she occupies, just because she's a First Lady, that is why in fact all eyes, all discussions, all suspicions is turned to her and all that. Yes, I would say, you know, position or status does not actually exculpate us from blame or for making mistakes and all. But what is clear in life, it's when you make certain mistakes and then perhaps you come back to terms with the fact that I should not have actually put myself in this stage to attract all of this kind of focus or attention around me.
So
when you are able to, please let me laugh. When you are able to come to terms with that and be able to make amends and also take steps to see how best you bring everybody on board, even though who might have perceived it wrongly, then that is where again the leadership comes, because at the end of the day you want to achieve the goal by keeping everybody together in spite of who lost, who win. Your goal is to keep them together and be able to get them as a formidable force that will create the desired impact that we required. And it's still not too late. I know Famata for one, and I know how as people who have a very genuine heart and who are always committed and have determination for the success of SLPP. You will quarrel with Hawa today. The next moment she sees you, she has the desire to relate to you. The same goes to Famata. You will quarrel with Famata here today. The next moment you are there, she is desiring to also relate to you. So these are people who do not harbor grudges. And all we need to do is to provide the necessary guidance and leadership for them to work together.
So Leema, are you trying to indirectly accept what people out there are saying, that the First Lady is actually responsible for what happened in Kailahun, and also what most people see as growing bad blood within the within the SLPP? I
am not in any way alluding to what people perceived, because they have right to their perception. Whatever I'm saying here, it's my own opinion. And it's also not, it does not come out as the fact. But what I'm saying, that this is the general perception of the public from what we have assessed. So I'm talking around that if this is what people have perceived, sometimes, let me tell you this, you may have your personal conviction that what you are doing is right. And as long as you are convinced that what you are doing is right, within your own personal standpoint, the general public may see it wrong, but as long as you are convinced that what you are doing is right, that's me. In fact, sometimes it even gives me the desire to even go out of my own natural character to do something because I feel passionate about it. And as much as I am convinced within myself that is right, I will take steps to be able to do them, in spite of the fact that they are against my own natural tendencies. But at the end of the day also, it's good to also come back to the drawing board and reflect on what the perceptions of people are. And you are able to also have that view to assess people's perception on how they view your approach towards doing certain things. And if you are able to come to terms and relate to what they perceive about your actions, and then within your own inner self, you search your own conscience that what they are saying is right, and for whatever reasons, in an ideal circumstance, you are supposed to really act in the way that they expected or they perceive you to have acted, then that is where the idea of you showing magnanimity in taking certain steps that you think naturally your ego will not allow you to take, and take those steps to be able to correct those anomalies. But I would say, as human beings, no matter the status or positions you were occupied, we are not above mistakes. We are prone to mistakes, but it's how much we're able to atone for our mistakes. It's where our human values come. All right, so
Leema, even though you're subtly trying to say that whosoever was responsible for the for the Kailahun incident should actually come out and be responsible and do what is expected. We hope the person will actually come out to do that.
No, I did not say what you are. No. I did not say what you are concluding. No.
Subtly, that's what you're trying to say.
That's not what I did. That's not
so what are you trying to say?
I have said what I'm saying here clearly.
Whosoever was responsible, whether it was the LUC, whether it was the First Lady, because what happened in Kailahun is definitely not acceptable.
Yeah,
for the LUC to know that the First Lady is in their midst and them turning off the lights and they're not protecting the women, and it is an election. And then here you're saying, oh, maybe he was being informed that it's an in-house issue, and they have no right to whatever is happening in-house for SLPP. They should be doing their job. So whosoever is responsible for this should come out and just do the needful.
Okay, now I understand how you conclude. So we need to actually let the public understand. Is that not what you're trying to say? Because your conclusion perhaps will perceive like I'm saying this is the person.
No, but I said whosoever. Okay. Is that not what you're trying to say?
I accept that analogy.
Okay, so now we're talking about other elections coming up within representing the Sierra Leone People's Party. How prepared is the party for the upcoming elections?
Well, when you talk of preparation, in the first place, that's why we've been able to have series of NEC meetings and coming out with dates, conducting elections lower level up to the stage of even having the last NEC meeting in Port Loko, where all delegate lists were presented to NEC, and NEC has had approved the list, and that list is out there now as the official delegate list that will be voting for those who will be engaged in the elections. And so the date for the final conference is also set, which is the 22nd and 23rd in Bo. So it's quite clear that the preparation is set. Maybe one would be thinking of what's going to be the security preparedness, but of course everybody knows that the state is going to be present in Bo, and you know what that means when the state is in Bo. Everybody has to be,
hopefully
in spite of the fact that
there won't be told not to.
I've said the state, in fact, the LUC perhaps is going to be a very small man in all of these, because the state is going to be present in Bo.
There's always this conversation about, you know, statesmen, public officials, be it the First Lady, be it the President himself, be it ministers, who hold executive positions in political parties, and how you draw the line between your state functions and your political party affairs. I mean, some of the videos we've seen on social media, you've seen the First Lady and the President of Sierra Leone making a statement, talking to political party members and executives, but you have the presidential stamp on the, you know, the presidential regalia all over the place. So at that point in time, you would want to question whether there is really a line between the state position, as a public official, and the political party lines.
Well, this is what we call fringe benefits. In the first place,
you call it fringe benefits, but let me just give you a premise as to the power the First Lady commands as a First Lady, you know, going to Kailahun is in itself an influence over the elections, and we saw what happened there.
That's perception. Maybe you want me to clarify.
This is, you can continue to
Fine.
answer.
First, let me address what happened at the State House. You call that, like I said, fringe benefits, perhaps because of want of what? Firstly, how do you call this current government in governance?
The government of Sierra Leone.
I agreed, but it has a name. What sort of government?
It is the government of Sierra Leone.
I agreed, but what government? Is it not the SLPP government?
Not as a journalist, perhaps as a political party member.
Is it not the SLPP government? Okay, it's the government of Sierra Leone under the leadership of President Bio, who ran under the ticket of SLPP.
Absolutely correct.
Fine. So there's no way you're going to call this government and leaving the SLPP out of it. So I'm saying they are intertwined. The party and the government, they have relationship. And so the president also provided leadership for the party at that material time. If the party sees the need that we are going to do to pay a courtesy call, first of all, the president sits there as the president of the nation. Every groupings, every facet of society would have to have schedule with the president. As long as they have the appropriate schedule, the president makes time for them to engage with the president. So that also does not preclude any political party. The APC can have their leadership today. They said they will decide to go and present their leadership to the President of the Republic. Yes. They will decide to do that. He's the president. He's the father of the nation. So if the SLPP decides to take their leadership to the president, okay, I agreed he's a president who ran under the ticket of the SLPP, and therefore is the SLPP government in the reign, in power. So the SLPP decides to take steps and take their candidates to go and present to the president. Well, they took the women's leader to the president to formally present the women's leader to the president. Any other political party can do that, or any other grouping, any other facet within the Republic can choose to take their membership, their executive, their leadership to the president and present to the president. I see nothing actually precluding the president from accepting to acknowledge responsible leadership that has come out of a proper process that has come as a result of a proper organization, and they've been able to arrive at a decision, and they decide to present that to their leadership.
This is why I gave you the premise as to the question not being the presentation to the president of Sierra Leone. Any political party can choose to present their leadership to the president of Sierra Leone. But the premise I gave you was, you know, you made it clear when you started this conversation as to why you removed yourself from the situation. Yep. Because probably as an internal affairs minister, your presence in Kailahun might have changed something, and you as a human being devoid of anything else, you might have your own biases. So this is the premise on which I based my question. Where do we draw the line then?
Okay, I am a bit different from the First Lady when it comes to SLPP executive elections, in the sense that I'm a national officer, right? And that particular elections that was going on, I haven't got any direct role to play. In fact, the one at Katko, I was there because I'm the PRO, because I know at the end of it all, I have to be here to talk. I was there to observe the process, how it goes, so that I will have a clear understanding as to how I come and talk. At some point in time, when Josephine Jackson decided to step down for Farmer Sawane, there was an objection from the other side that Josephine Jackson should go out. And so being the PRO also, I think I have knowledge of the philosophy, principles, and programs of the party.
So why were you not in Kailahun?
So at that stage, I got there. At that stage, I got to David and Timothy to learn, because they are new in the process. I got to them, I said, no, whatever happens, if she has stepped down, she has come this far, and so she has a stake. You can allow her to stay around as observer. And so they were able to take that on board. And they consulted with within themselves, and also viewed the opinion of the general public, of the general membership within the hall. And then they arrive at a decision to still let Josephine stay in the hall as observer, so that at least they'll be able to save any animosity that would have arisen as a result. Now, with the First Lady, it's a bit different. The First Lady is the delegate in that particular elections, and the women's leader, the then women's leader also was a delegate, and also she was supposed to be part of that elections. The First Lady also is a delegate. She's a woman within the party. Okay, one would say perhaps because she's a First Lady and she should not have been there, but she has not, from what I saw, I was in the hall, I did not see her took any advantage of the fact that she's First Lady and decided to even give instructions or to even tell people what to do, what not to do. No, she went into the hall. Okay, she really has that clout as the First Lady. When she comes around, women will normally adore her each time she's in their presence. But after that, she went and took her seat. And she sat there until her own time reached to vote, and they called her to vote. Peradventure, perhaps were the candidates that was perceived that she supported won the elections. And also what was pleasing or satisfactory in that hall was the courage by the outgoing women's leader also to congratulate the winning candidate. Yeah, so that was very pleasing. I think what perhaps we would have done after that period now was to see how best we're able to strengthen the relationship, extend olive branch, which is also still not too late. We can still do that. And like the president said, we form councils around those leaderships so that we'll be able to have them functions and be able to deliver on their goals, to be able to see how best they play their own role to help the SLPP come into governance.
Okay, Leema, we don't really have enough time. And before we take messages, let's just move from the Katko elections, because I'm sure you people must have learned, lessons will have been learned, and you would have found a way to move on. Now we're talking about the upcoming elections, wherein you will be, you're standing as public relations officer also. Let's talk about that election. I was asking, what are the things that have been put in place?
Well, in terms of things that have been put in place, first of all, we've been able to identify the venue. After the lower level elections, the delegate list had now been handed over to NEC. It has been approved. It's out there now. And we've identified the venue for the elections. And in terms of preparations, we've been able to learn our lessons from the previous elections we've conducted. And so in terms of security, it is my expectations that the police have been able to put structures in place. And over and above all, the president himself will be in the elections or in the conference because he's the leader of the party. And that is why I said initially that the state himself will be in Bo. what we also need to be clear at is that the SLPP convention normally is not really like how you look at a typical kind of electioneering process. Why am I saying this? Now, even though we've had the last NEC meeting, before we go into the conference on the D-Day, there's normally a closed-door background meetings that we'll have as a party, because this is the SLPP, as our mantra goes, or our motto goes, one country, one people. When we go into our national conference, this is always how we conduct ourselves. So decisions are made behind the scene. What we do in terms of our own elections, we do power distributions. There are certain positions in the SLPP is really ascribed to certain regions. Take, for instance, the Secretary General position is a position since the inception of the SLPP. It is a position that is normally being occupied by the Western area, the Secretary General position of the SLPP. If it is not being occupied by, in fact, that's more the reason why Dr. Prince Hadi at some point in time was given that position as Secretary General of the party, because he has a Creole lineage. It's my understanding that he has a Creole lineage. And because he's also perceived to have a background within the Western area, that is why he was made the Secretary General of the party. The same for Mr. Suleiman Banjati Jansi. Also, he has this Northwestern lineage. So you come to look at also the chairmanship of the position. Well, it has also been a position that has normally been held by people from the eastern region. So there are times, yes, it comes to the south, but this is how we distribute those positions. Even when you look at the IMOC has been formed across the national spectrum. You take people representative from various regions to be able to form the national body. So normally, before we go into those elections, they look at how individuals are standing in the elections and also make decisions so that there is that general understanding before we go on the D-Day to be able to effect what really reflects the ideal of the true SLPP. So how
democratic is the process then if you are already, making the decisions behind closed doors, making these decisions as to what region a certain position should go to?
Well, when you talk of democracy, it's about the general acceptance of the public or a particular group of what they have decided that this one will accept, it fits us. And so that is more the reason why, as it is now, the party leadership is observing what is going on. They are doing assessment of every individual that is actually vying for positions. And even though people are coming out, we will still not lose sight of the fact that that national character should always reflect the leadership cadre of the SLPP. So going in closed door or going in a background meeting is to be able to do thorough assessment of the individual candidates and how we will go into that elections that will bring out an executive that reflects a national character.
All right. So okay. Just before we take messages, could you give us a brief of the positions that are up for grabs in the upcoming elections?
Well, yes, I would try. Of course, you have to look at the chairmanship and the deputy chairmanship. We were also looking at the Secretary General, Organizing Secretary, Deputy Organizing Secretary, Deputy Secretary General, and the National Publicity Secretary. Which one again? Yes, because for the young generation and the Women's Council who've done their own elections, they are going to be adopted at the National Delegate Conference. In summary, that is what I will give to you as those are the various positions people are going to contest.
All right.
Okay, well, let's take some of the views from our viewers out there. Lawrence Force says, how can the police be in their hall when you guys have marshals? If they think like you, they would have brand themselves as lawless and treat them like, okay, Lawrence, I cannot finish that message. Ibrahim Ansari says a free and fair election involves political freedom and fair processes leading up to the vote. A fair count of eligible voters who cast a ballot, including such aspects as electoral fraud or voter suppression, and acceptance of election results by all parties. And also, A lot of messages here I cannot read out. Please, let's just try to be civil. Ibrahim also says the recent election in Kailahun was really terrible. It shows recklessness on the part of dignitaries in the SLPP. I believe a free and fair election involves political freedom and fair processes leading up to the vote. Sorry, a lot of these messages here I cannot read. And Hassan Mazo is saying, how can the LUC be responsible for the light that was switched off? Is he in charge of EDSA if they are the one supplying electricity to the conference hall? Okay, there are a lot of messages here I cannot read, but a lot of the messages are talking about what happened in Kailahun and basically trying to say that the SLPP alongside with the security personnel did not manage the situation well. Leema.
Yes, maybe the one who made mention of there was a recklessness on the part of SLPP dignitaries. Well, I will not, having a legal mind, I will not take recklessness for an insult. Maybe the person is trying to say that there was some level of carelessness. Well, that is his perception, which I respect. But in terms of saying there was some level of carelessness, I will not subscribe to that. However, the situation changed because the normal order that was put in place was to be able to ensure that we have a sanitized process. But if the situation changed that we, as party officials, that we did not anticipate, and the very reason the leadership took decision to say cancel the whole process, let's reschedule for the elections, and we went to NEC that has the official mandate to be able to make such decision. And that was put forward as an issue of discussion, and it was adopted, and date was set, and venue was set up for the next elections. And we had the process in the full view of the public, and it was properly conducted, for which losers accepted the outcome, and also winners were able to celebrate the outcome. So, but what we are saying now that the winners should be able now to show magnanimity to see how best they can extend olive branch to those who have lost and see how best we work together as a team. And that's not going to be a very difficult issue because the one who was there as the women's leader, she is so passionate and committed to SLPP that, yes, she went for the position because she knew she was appropriate to do the job, but being voted out does not in any way mean she will not contribute, she will not be devoted, she will not be dedicated because she believes in SLPP. And it's the same spirit of the victor, and which I think that we now need to play leadership to see how best we bring them on board. How much
of an influence, not to start the fire again, but how much of an influence do you think the First Lady will have on this? Because it's crystal clear that there has been this kind of banter between her and Fatima Tasawane. And now that, you know, you have Hawa Fore as the women's leader, it really is in people's minds as to how the women's wing would continue to function if there would be peace at all between these two camps.
Well, perhaps that's just perception, that there has been this kind of animosity between First Lady
perception. We hear voice notes on WhatsApp back and forth.
That's what people say, but that's what people say.
How is that perception?
But for
we see the videos, we hear the voice notes.
That is not the case. I have seen in many occasions, in many instances where the First Lady and the women's leader, the then women's leader, actually gel well. The then women's leader gives the First Lady the respect as the First Lady of the Republic. And when it comes to party matters, I've seen where the First Lady recognized the then women's leader as the women's leader of the party. Okay, people may form perception, they will say things, but it's always expected around political scene. So those things don't bother me anyway. But however, when you are in position of leadership, sometimes your style of leadership may not suit certain people. They may have issues with that. And so they will think that, no, okay, I think I'm not comfortable with the manner in which you are administering your office. And therefore, I am going to ensure I play my own part to see how best I can have my own desired or preferred candidate takes over. But what is clear in our mind is that the party is bigger. And because the party is bigger, we have been able to put ourselves at that level where, in spite of the fact that we go into elections and we are expecting to win, but even where we do not win, that will still not put us in that kind of disagreeing issue to the extent that we will not see the need to come to terms with the party and work for the good of the party. So it's not going to be anything difficult because, like I said to you, I know Famata. Famata, you can quarrel with Famata. At this moment, by the time you get to that door, she's over it. She plays with you as if nothing ever happened. That is the Famata I know, and I know how much she has SLPP at heart. I know how much she's committed. And the same for the Victor as well, because I have had encounter with all of them, you know, on issues, and at the end of the day, you see them the next day, they have the desire to still relate to you. That is the SLPP-ness. But sometimes supporters actually flare up because of certain things, but then this is where we have to show leadership to calm them down. And even after the election, she came out with an audio. Yes, at some point she felt dissatisfied that she lost, but she's also she expressed also that she's a party person and she's committed to SLPP.
All right, so finally, before we leave and take our sports, what has been done by the party in order to ensure that something like this does not repeat itself?
Well, like what you saw happen in Katko, it's a clear roadmap to show that what happened will not repeat itself. I will tell you, it's just that in the democratic leadership, sometimes the way you expect people to act, no, you have to be fatherly sometimes. And sometimes you see really people are going overboard, but you have to tolerate them. It's just that you will not tolerate them to such extent that the image of the institutions that's actually all of you uphold dwindle to that extent that sometimes you take some fatherly steps to correct certain things and get things back on the proper orbit. Okay,
because why I ask it because there are a lot of things passing around in social media, and so far it's as if nothing is being done, and this doesn't really tell well. It doesn't look good for your party. Sorry?
Example of such things.
Audios, videos, things going around about the election, about what's happening within the party, that there's bad blood within the party. That's why I ask what has been done so this will not repeat itself, because it shows bad for the party.
It is not, because the point is, whatever happens when people contest for positions, everybody is sure of winning. And when one party loses, whatever happens, you'll be bitter. I'll tell you this for free.
It's for elections, these things happen during elections, but when a state figure is involved in it, it shows bad, especially for the party.
But honestly, you can also not preclude state figures from being in political party elections. No. That one is out of it. I'm a state figure. Let's leave First Lady out of this.
And definitely, besides the First Lady, if you were part of this, it would have still shown bad.
Napoleon is a state figure, right? The president is a state figure. But this is our party. We are members of this party. We are subscribing our resources into this party. Let's move away
from the First Lady. We're talking about the upcoming elections. What lessons have been learned? What has the party put in place so something like this will not repeat itself? Because now we're talking about the next elections, which seem a bit bigger with the men in it, which seem a bit bigger with a lot of state figures in it.
This is where I'm coming now. There are rules and regulations laid out. And those rules, as long as you subscribe to the fact that you are a member of SLPP, you should subject yourself to the rules and regulations guiding the party. And so, if you go against the rules and regulations, within the context of the party will certainly take disciplinary measures against you. If you also conduct yourself in certain manner that is against public law, order, and discipline, the state comes in and take control of that. Say, for instance, you go and conduct yourself in a very violent manner. That's not going to be looked at as a party matter. No. If you conduct yourself in a behavior that is unacceptable within the confines of this country, you are violating the laws of this country, and the police will apprehend you.
Okay.
You are not above the law. And that is why, over and above the fact that you are subject to the party rules and regulations or the party laws, you are also a citizen of this nation subject to the laws of this country. So you are bound to commit yourself to the party, to the obligations of the party, and also commit yourself to the law, constitution, and principles or dictates of good order of the state.
All right, okay, so thank you so much for coming and talking to us on Wake Up and good luck with the national executive elections, and congratulations on your new women's leader Well, that's all we have time for in today's edition of Wake Up Sierra Leone. Before we leave, a quick reminder of our quotes, which says, politics is not only about personal choice. One also needs to take into consideration what the people want, because in the end, they are the ones who decide. And that comes from Paul Kagame, President of Rwanda.
Okay, and with that, we say thank you to our sponsors, Raquel Commercial Bank, for their support to the program. Continue to stay with AYB throughout the day as we have other exciting programs coming up. Till we meet again tomorrow for more interesting topics here on Wake Up Sierra Leone, we have been your presenters. I am Loko and Kailahun.
And I'm Antonia Howard saying have a good day.